some of you are familiar with by now. And we have our guest speaker today, Mahesh Kothurkar, with us. But before that, quickly, let me just tell you about the cookbook project, which was launched in March. And we have we have seen a lot of enthusiasm from the learners, and they want to bring in more and more recipes. They want to host the recipes. So we have extended the deadline up to the fall of 2020. Learners have shown us how much fun it is to share recipes, the tips, the story behind the recipes that they are sharing. So we are not limiting it only the plant-based recipes. We have broadened the scope of the cookbook, and the sky is the limit. So go ahead and submit appetizers, main dishes, salads, soups, sides, or desserts. Any recipe you have inherited, it's your secret recipe or created or adapted to suit your taste is welcome. Do send a picture, written recipe, and the story behind it to social@GetSetUp.io, and somebody from our team will get in touch with you for further details. So back to our session this evening or morning to some of our learners, Startup Accelerator Program. We have been bringing you success stories from various entrepreneurs and in various categories. The 4 categories that GetSetUp has brought here is art and craft, garment-related business, food and food-related business, and services when it is teaching, coaching, consulting, and the like. And our guest today, this evening with us is Mahesh Kothurkar, a corporate entrepreneur, and we are going to hear the story from him, his journey rather. The session will get us inspired, gain insight, and it will also motivate us to start our venture. A warm welcome, Mahesh, to this platform. And before I hand over the platform to you, a quick introduction, because during the talk, we will get to know more about Mahesh and his journey. Mahesh Kothurkar has worked with Tata Communications for over 8 years in various global and leadership roles with extensive experience in South Africa and North America. Before joining industry, Mahesh was part of the coveted navigation and air combat branch in the Indian Navy as commander. Mahesh served on various frontline ships and aircraft carriers for 20 years, also participated in the 3 international campaigns, including UN Peacekeeping Force at Somalia and Indian Peacekeeping Force at Sri Lanka. Mahesh is associated with capital firms from India, Australia, Qatar, and London for fundraising. He is currently part of multiple advisory boards globally. Once again, we welcome Mahesh. Thank you, Mahesh, for accepting our invitation to be here on this platform and share your inspiring story with us. What we are going to do, we will have some more people joining. So we're going to keep all of you on mute. But I request, if you have questions or you want to add comments, just keep dropping them in the comment box. And towards the end, last 10 minutes, we shall take questions. Is that okay, Mahesh, with you?
Absolutely. I'm okay to take questions anytime.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So the platform is all yours, and we have Vaishnavi with us also to step in wherever there is any tech issue. If anybody has any issue, just raise your hand and we'll be there.
Thank you. Thank you, Binda.
Yes, go ahead. I'm putting myself on mute. I'm around.
Sure. Just looking at if everyone is mute. So, great. Thanks to for giving me this opportunity to share my story. Binda has talked about it's a success story. I don't know whether it is successful because one has to define how success is. What is the metric for success? If success is defined by the miles and more privileged miles of airline, I think I'm very successful. But if success is defined by evenings I spend with my wife without phone, I think I'm terrible. I'm totally unsuccessful. So with that, it's a great idea when Binda you shared me with me about this platform Get Set Up, and great project, cookbook project. I'm also a very good cook. Only thing is, I cook up stories. So with that lighter movement, I'll start my personal journey. Binda has been very kind and generous when she talked about my journey, my life in Navy, and the international campaigns I have participated with. But if I have to talk about my personal background, I will uh, I will say I'm always a learner. I've learned from everyone I met, and whenever I meet, every conversation I have, I pick up what I can learn from anyone I meet. So, but I'm obsessed with three. So everything I talk about will be 3 points. So be careful. Uh, we also talked about slides. So there was a choice between me that I present 105 slides and create death by presentation, or just do a free flow conversation with you all. And I chose the second option of not using the slides at all. So whatever I talk probably will be a free flow and with some anecdotes. So, that's how the pro forma will be. So there are three things I want to talk about my personal journey. The first and the foremost is about the values I got from my parents, because values define you, and values also define your business. So my business, when I created, these values are the values which I learned from my parents. They were from a very humble background. My father was a government servant, mother was a teacher. What they actually gave me is how one has to build trust. The way they built trust in me, and that taught me how actually to build trust. The other thing which they taught me was about transparency. How you figure out how you are transparent with all your dealings. That's something which I got from my parents too. And the third value is about fairness. I think my mother gets the credit for that fairness. She was fair with anyone and everyone. She always says that your character is defined by how you talk to a maid servant and how you talk to your boss. If you talk on the same lines, probably your character is defined. So with that, these were the values which I got from my parents. But one value which I got also from my grandfather, because that's the formative years, young age. He always said, aim high. Uh, Whatever you do, probably aim high, because that's going to, if you don't dream, you're not going to achieve. So whatever you dream, you dream big or aim high. That has defined also what Mahesh is today. If I if I have to pick about the third trait of Mahesh, or a character, which defines, is about making it happen, and that's the trait which I got from my naval background. In the corporate, it is talked about management by objective. There are objectives around which you define yourself, and in armed forces, in most of the armed forces world over, it's all about, I jokingly call it MBB, which is management by boot. So you get a boot to do everything. It happened with me. If I quote a anecdote, is when I was serving in the Navy. HR is HR everywhere. We are HR professional, I'm sure. They try to, when they have to get you into a job, they will convince you very nice. So I was convinced, saying that, hey, you have to lead a project, you have to be part of the very big thing which is happening in the Navy. And suddenly I saw myself into implementing SAP for the Navy. Whereas in 1990, in 2001, there was no Google. I didn't know what was what was the full form for ERP. And from there, we did what we did, which is one of the successful implementations of SAP in the country today. So it's all about making it happen. So it's all about, when you are innovative, how you do things. So that's about my personal character, or what Mahesh is. These are the three things: the values and aiming high, and make it happen is something defines me. So I always try to achieve by pushing myself to the limits. So that's another thing which I have seen when I was a child. uh, there were a lot of Bollywood movies, the international folks here. So as kids, we watch Bollywood movies, and joining armed forces was one of the themes in the Bollywood movies. So I pushed myself. So let me join Navy, and my father said, "Go, try it out. If you're successful." And God was kind to me. I was successful. I joined the Navy. I joined as a commissioned officer. There's a fantastic exposure which I got in the Navy, and the learning. Then it happened when I wanted to invest in myself in my learnings. I said, let me start from the top business school, and I started off with the top business school for my admission. Applied to Harvard Business School. Again, God was kind to me. My wife said, "Go try it out. If you get selected." I got selected. This time it was my wife. And the third incident I can quote is when I commenced this entrepreneurial journey. When I decided, I said, let's form this advisory or consulting arm for startups. I reached out to my wife. This time she said, I'll also be part of it. So she works very closely with me to develop this company. So that's in good 5 minutes is all about what Mahesh is, and how we have developed as a character. One question in the entrepreneur's journey, generally I get asked whenever people talk about whenever I talk about my entrepreneurial journey, is why you wanted to be an entrepreneur. And how I answer this question is about a very inspiring speech which Steve Jobs delivered in 2005 in Stanford. I'm sure many of you must have heard that speech. It is called as Stay Hungry, Stay Foolish. And he talks about, again, the three incidences in his life and his entrepreneurial journey, how he connects the dots behind. The dots are always connected behind, not in the forward. And he talks about how you can, love what you do. And the third thing he talked about death, and how death came to him very close. Uh, so that particular talk by Steve Jobs actually uh, is a very inspiring talk. That inspired me on this journey of entrepreneurship. And his tagline of "Love what you do." I thought, yeah, there is a heaviness of being successful in a corporate. So we have achieved what we have achieved, and continuously we have to achieve that. That I wanted to replace by the lightness of a beginner. How we can begin to build something as a mm, as entrepreneur, as a beginner in this journey. So that's how I generally respond to why entrepreneurship journey I thought of. There was no one in our family who was an entrepreneur. Similarly, there was no one in our family who was in armed forces. No one as a family went to Harvard. So I said, let me be the first one to start this entrepreneurial journey too. With this, how I want to structure the next about 20 25 minutes is about talking about my journey of how I prepared to form this company, and thereafter, you know, what all things went in my mind when I started on this journey, and how it culminated to. That's what I want to talk in next about 20 minutes. Uh, I feel preparation is the theme which I've taken in here, because one has to be very prepared. And I don't know from the three goals which Binda defined: getting inspired, getting insights, but getting prepared was the third one. And I thought that I'll pick that as a theme for me to talk to everyone today. And that preparation is all about, the first part of my preparation was all about ideation. uh, the idea, when you want to be an entrepreneur, there has to be a preparation done. And we say that that idea, what is that idea you want to implement? And I had a lot of things. I was 21 years in the Navy. I had different life. Then in 9 years in the corporate, where again I had international teams, and we worked with top consulting firms like McKinsey or BCG or Jeffries, and I interacted, or Gallup. I interacted with a lot of leaders from these companies, and I felt that consulting is something which come to me very naturally, because working around large projects in these large corporates was something was my responsibility. So I figured out, hey, consulting and advisory is something which I should pick up in the ideation. Now, this is in hindsight, that you want to do something, but needs a validation. Now, this validation has to come from, first of all, yourself. You have to believe in it. But also, the second part of this ideation is to pick up the right mentor. And mentor is something who you look up to. You are very free to him to talk about what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what are your opportunities for improvement. Can you really do this? So when I identified amongst many things what I wanted to do, I said, let me pick up advisory, or let me pick up a consulting. One of the things that my mentor talked about, he was a tier one consultant from the Silicon Valley. He was on advisory boards, multiple advisory boards, and a very senior technology person. And he was associated with our group as a guide. And I walked up to him and I said, hey, this job which I'm doing, I want to quit. And I want to start something on my own when I turn 50. Uh, and he was, he said, very nicely, he figured out what all things he sees as strength in me. And one of the strength he says is, you are very, for want of a better word, he used diplomatic in, I'm very diplomatic in uh, convincing people of what not to do. So he said there is a kind of gravitas, the second thing which you have, which people feel very comfortable coming and sharing with you as a leader. He mentioned that not many he has seen, that people who are below you and people who are above you, both of them are very comfortable when you talk to. probably I attribute this to my journey in the armed forces, where I feel one trait which I got from my armed forces career was to connect with the generals and jawans going at their levels. So I could very easily talk to my jawan, and I could very easily talk to my general going at his level. So I could connect with the board very easily, and I could connect with the knock engineer in my company very easily. So that's something which he picked up, and he said, probably that's one thing which is your differentiator to be an advisor or to be a consultant, and give outside in view for any company or any startup. Also, during this ideation process, we figured out what should be our target, where should we go. Is the advisory for a small and medium businesses? Is it for large corporates? What it takes to be an advisor with a consultant with a large corporate, or what it takes to be an advisor with a small and medium company. So even these kinds of deliberation happened with me and my mentor, and I feel that was very important part of my life in the development of the company. And that culminated into developing the hypothesis for my ideation, that I created a hypothesis that world over the startup founders have two challenges. One is around creating or raising funds, and the second is around creating traction, as in the valley it is called traction, is to build business, how to scale the business. And I felt that the second challenge is something which I can add value. I can add value because of the network which I have in telecom for about 8 9 years, Harvard Business School, alumni, my classmates, and friends and family, all of us have. And the companies or the large corporates which we have interacted with, all these ecosystems I can tap into and create traction. And the world was going towards as a service. Everyone was talking about software as a service. So I talked about traction as a service. And I said, this is how is my service defined, whether it is a product or a service. So the ideation culminated into this hypothesis of I want to build a services company, and I will call that services traction as a service. And it was taken very, very positively by anyone and everyone I met in the valley in 2014. So that's all about my ideation and how I came up to traction as a service as a model for to scale. Then the next one is about business preparation. So it is very important from ideation, how do you prepare? And and one of the aspects of preparation of business is figuring out who's your target customer. And I found out through my hypothesis that who are the my target customers. These are, I defined it, traction as a service in 2014. India was getting prominence, and I went to the Bay Area quite often for my previous job, and I had created an ecosystem of startup. So I said that startup founders who have initial funding, these are the startup founders. So I came up with a very sharp definition of my target customer. So who have got seed funding and they would like to take my services, they would have appetite to grow, and one has to define also how your services are. So I defined traction as a service around three vectors. The first vector was we create a product market fit, which is a management jargon. But whether this product will have its legs into India, that's something which we picked up. And many a times we felt that we are not going to get these products. They're ahead of time in India. So we refused to work with those companies. So those are the experiences which I had to define a target customer. Then it was important how you define the process. I want to share with you how you name the company. So I had a marketing guru as a classmate, and I started talking to him, saying that what should we name the company. A lot of people had ABC, XYZ as names of the company, ABC consultants and advisors and all that. So there was at least about 10 names in my opinion, which were right. And they were right from my right from the levels of my WhatsApp group, with my name of the WhatsApp group from my initials, to my WhatsApp group to my wife and son. Even we thought of that as an acronym to name the company. And but this marketing guru came and he said, "See, this is going to be is a common question in scaling and growth in the boardroom, is asked is what is your global footprint?" And you are actually creating a global footprint for yourself and for the company. So why not have global footprint in your name? And then we figured out various domains. So it's important once you decide on a name, whether you get a domain name. And the domain these days is when I formed the company, .com was the only one. So, so I said I should get a .com domain. There were .in, then it becomes a very India centric. .de becomes only German centric. .com is global. These days, even .global are the domains available. So even that went into our making of a name of the company or choosing of the name of the company. So we said Global Footprint Advisory. We got the domain from GoDaddy. And it is important to have your email ID with that domain, so that many people start with Gmail. It does not cost much to actually buy a domain and have an email. But that's the kind of investment you have to do. And that's how I felt, because I was talking to global audiences. It has to be very authentic. Instead of using a Gmail ID, means I'm not very serious. And that's the reason I picked up this domain and an email ID for that. So that's one thing about preparation for identifying a name. Even the logo. I think logo is very important, because how you define the typeface, how the logo colors are there. It's also important because on a lighter vein, when you start a business, you don't have a use case to talk. So when you create a logo and you have this logo on your visiting card, probably that's something which you can talk about, why you chose this color, why there is a leaf in the logo, why these are, how I have a very unique logo on my which was created by this marketing guru friend of mine. And uh, uh, but God was kind to me. I didn't have to talk about my logo to many, because my business started the moment I started on the very first day of the company. I'll talk about it later. So, but this logo and taglines are very important aspects of businesses. So I chose foundation for success, because my target was the startup founders. So how I articulated it, that I'm reasonably achieved what I have to, but I now have to enable others to achieve. And that's where we figured out foundation of success. Frankly, we took almost 15 days to identify, and lot of brainstorming happened between me and the marketing person, which helped me to do it. So that's about preparation for business and logos and how things happen. But then then the next preparation is about, I call it financial preparation. So when you start a business, you know, what is the financial percentage? So that is, what is your business model? When you go to your target customer, can they afford this service? What should be your pricing? How do you make money? And for me, it was easy because the advisory model in the Silicon Valley is well established. So there are components on equity, there are components on cash, there are components on success. So I felt that that was the right combination. I could go to our target and say, hey, this is the service. These are the three things we offered. We define traction as product market fit, as adoption of your products into a large corporate in India, and finding your right go-to-market partner. These are the three components of a service, and how we price this service is around the advisory components. So it was easy to go and talk to our target customers because they have already done. They knew exactly what the pricing was. So that's one part, because that's how you earn money. You are doing business not for charity. So there are businesses around charity, but you know uh, there are businesses around profit. So pricing becomes very important aspect of this. Then the next aspect about financial preparedness is to identify the right cost. So what are the costs for the businesses? How much? Because in advisory business or a consulting business, which I have, it's all about your intellectual property. What about frameworks you have created? How you're going to address that? How you are going to monetize that? So those are the things. For that, what are the costs? So probably for a consulting business, the cost is an office. So do I have to rent an office? Is it the right thing to do? And believe you me, 2014, work from home is a known norm now. But in 2014, when I started conceptualize global footprint advisory, I decided I'll not invest into office. My office will be this laptop. When I open the laptop, my office starts. And there are someone asked me how many, because especially in Germany, people ask about the scale, that how many offices do you have? How big is your firm? So I said, hey, I have in Mumbai about 20 branches of my office, my company. So wow, 20 branches. I said, some people call it Starbucks. So I started going and sitting in Starbucks and doing my job. So I don't require. So those are the things about the costs for the business. You have to be very clear about from the day one. Do I require? So I invested probably in a paid subscription of Zoom in 2015 when Zoom was not known anywhere. Only Valley people used to use it. And whosoever I worked, I said, hey, come on Zoom. Today, Zoom is known even to a child. And the way pandemic has evolved Zoom. But I invested into a paid Zoom in 2015. So those are the costs you define what do you really require. And and the third part is all about tax awareness. Okay. So when you do financial preparation for a company, it's all about tax. Whether you do tally, whether you do, whether you want to be very professional in creating your invoices, whether you use these kind of softwares, you have to invest into it. Are you sure you're going to be in a GST bracket? If you're not, also, you have to have a tax number. So you apply. A lot of people don't apply for tax number. I said, hey, I need to apply for a tax number right from the word go, because I'm going to be scaling this business. I'm not going to stop at a non-taxable level or create another company to save tax. I'm happy to pay tax. So that's how, because in the growth, if you have a tax view, it's hampered. Your growth is hampered. So that's how I looked at art from the financial preparation. Then the third preparation is all about emotional preparation, I feel, and it's a very important component of your business preparation overall. That is, you know, You are used to a corporate life. You are used to uh, you know, a salary coming every month, and at the first of the month, and you have the whole month, you and your wife, to spend that money or save that money the way you choose it. And at the end of the next month, you keep on waiting for a salary package to come. And in the business, there's no salary. It's all about revenue. And you have to figure out how this money is going to come. So there's a big emotional preparedness which is required to say, hey, the pay is not going to come, this money is not going to come to me every day, but I'm still going to make money through my revenue, and how that revenue has to be achieved. This is my business model. These are my customers. The first will say no, 10th will say no. But if you believe in what you're doing, the revenue will come. So there is a kind of emotional preparation I feel one has to do. And in this emotional preparation, I'm going to take this liberty. I just saw my wife is also on the Zoom, listening to what I'm saying. Is it's very important to prepare your spouse in this emotional journey, and how we prepare. What it takes to talk to her or him, saying that we have to come out of this pay thought process and figure out how we are going to make this business. So this emotional preparation, I feel, is very important from the point of view of your startup journey or your entrepreneurial journey. And and the next one is around mindset change. So there is a preparation of changing your mindset, I feel, which is also very important. And I'll quickly give you a couple of examples in this. A very good friend of mine, my college mate, lives in our society. And I shared with him in a morning walk saying that I want to start a business and I want to work with two startups. I want to do it right with these two for next 18 months. And then I'm going to, grow. So he said, hey, that's not a right mindset for entrepreneur. There's entrepreneurial community today, which says, you know, in India we say Lakshmi. Lakshmi comes and knocks your door once. If you open the door, she will enter. She'll be in with you. But if you don't open the door at that knock, she will go find the next door, which gets open. So why in the world you want to do only only two companies? Everyone comes to you. Figure that out. Okay. And then we have to do everything yourself. You have to book your tickets. You should book your visa. You have to find a right flight. You have to figure out how you go from an airport to the hotel, which hotel. So there's a big mindset change from a corporate life where everything was done by a secretary. Everything was people used to wait for you to come for meetings. The meetings were organized by someone. There's a reason why you're flying into. Here you have to do it all, yeah, by yourself. And even the spending, when you're an entrepreneur, you have to figure out how do you spend. As a corporate worker, you say that I will first pay taxes and then spend. But as an entrepreneur, we say that I have to spend first and then figure out about taxes, because these things, as it is talked about, these expenditures are catered for business expenses, which are the ones, and you have to be truthful about it, that which are the expenditure which you cater for. So one has to be very frugal in this mindset also. In a corporate, you just say, oh, this is a restaurant, we'll throw a party, sign a check, someone will approve it. But when you are frugal, you're not going to be, as an entrepreneur, you're not going to fly business class. You're not going to fly first class. You are going to be, flying economy class. Cross countries, you are doing economy class. That's a big mindset change. Then, and the last one is around agility. how do I respond to the changes? What are the business models which are changing? So these are a couple of things which I have. I think it's already 35 minutes into my talk. I uh, you know uh, i will say that one thing, as a tagline which was given to me by Nitin Nohari, who was the dean of Harvard Business School, the first Indian dean. And when I completed my course program at Harvard Business School, this question which I asked him, that what will I want to be an entrepreneur or entrepreneur in a large corporate? What is one thing which will stand me out amongst others? And Nitin gave me a very good one liner. He said that whenever you do business within the in a large corporate or in the entrepreneur journey, remember to create value first and then claim it. No one is going to give you that value without you creating it. With this thought, I'll take a pause, and Binda, all yours. If there are questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Mahesh. And yes, you said 35 minutes, but I mean, we wish it never ended because there was so much. I think everybody was glued and listening to that. And if I may just sum up whatever you shared from the short journey, I can call it short journey as an entrepreneur. I think you actually gave a business plan to all our audience. Getting started with when we talked about preparedness, ideation, thinking about getting a mentor is very important, and thinking about what is the value that you're going to add when you're thinking of why should people come to you to buy your product or your services, and talking about financial projections, emotional preparedness. I think you covered it all. And there are some, as we said, GetSetUp has launched this startup accelerator program, because under this program, we are encouraging our older adults, our learners, those of who want to get started with some home-based business or any small business. This is where we are doing the hand holding, and people like you, speakers like you, definitely are an inspiration. So thank you very much, and we would open it for questions. If any, do raise your hand or the chat box, and I can read out the question to Mahesh, and he will be here to answer you. Any questions, please feel free to raise your hand. We will unmute you, and then we can take the question. He is into services and consultancy, but I think whatever he shared applies to any form of entrepreneurship, I think. Yeah. Yes, Dr. Anjana Shankar, yes, you have a question.
It's not a question. It's more like, I just loved it when he said you create the value and then you claim it. Mm-hmm. It was very hard hitting. I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. But this thank you, I'll pass it off to Nitin Nohari.
That was his, his dean had said, but that's a wonderful line. Yeah, even I made a note of that. It does tell you exactly what you want to do, what you should be doing. Yeah.
Because I think when we create the value, you are totally invested in it, you are passionate about it, and then naturally you will go for it. Then emotionally you will be prepared. So everything comes in that. So thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Anjana.
So until the questions are coming up or someone is thinking about a question, I have a question on my mind, and Mahesh, I would like to ask you. You wore uniform for about 20 odd years, and then you were in corporate for 8 years, and then you went into this. So there must have definitely been a change in your lifestyle. You said you're preparing yourself, your mindset has to change. But what were the kind of challenges you think you had to face. But I also remember you said you were lucky, you were privileged that the first, you just hit it off in your first uh, uh,
Month.
deal or something, right?
Right.
You were maybe one of the lucky ones, but there might be some challenges that you would have faced, and if you can share um, something about.
Sure. So, let me talk about one incident from my uniform life to the corporate life. So, uh, there's a data point that there are 30% of US CEOs are ex-armed forces, and in India, there's none. Not a single CEO armed forces came up with. So there was a lot of people in India probably look at armed forces personnel not from a management point of view, but you know from only from timeliness and honesty. These are the things which are attributed to armed forces. Okay. So, but there is make it happen attitude of armed forces people were not used. So when I came out and when I started to talk about the business and learning the ropes of the business, I realized that saying that I'm Commander Mahesh Kothurkar was coming in my way. So I dropped my rank, and it was a hard decision to drop my rank. Okay, a rank is very dear to armed forces person. So dropping that rank was a very conscious decision. And I realized that when I go into the meetings and I talk about the business, people listen to me with more intent rather knowing not knowing that I'm a commander. And at the end of it, I say, okay, I wore uniform and I was a commander. And then that, you know, the preconceived notion changed into aha. So saying, okay, you're so then that's good. So these are the kinds of mindset changes which we had to go to and challenge. I hope I answered your question, Vinda.
Yes,
Thank
yes. Thank you. It did. Because the perception changes.
Absolutely. Even in the entrepreneurial mindset which we had, you know, we have to do it everything by yourself. And the mindset, one of the challenges in the corporate when you work, you always have a boss to go back to, or in a deal when you say, hey, I'm not authorized to take that decision. I'll go back to my boss and come back, and you can get away from a situation. Where you're an entrepreneur, you have no boss. You are by yourself. The deal has to happen. It has to be your decision, no one else's decision. You don't have to say, oh, I'll think it up and all that. So that's one of the challenge one I had to be prepared for. Someone asked for my services very cheap, and I had to walk away. I said, no, I'm not going to sell myself cheap. This does not work for me. So there is a door knob policy in negotiations. So I had to use it myself. Whereas in the corporate life, I could go back to my boss and say, hey, my boss is not agreeing. I blame it on him and come out. But here I had to do it myself.
True. We have one question by Veena Chirri in the chat box. We have to face monetary challenge. What do you have to say about that? You did touch upon it, but I think Veena came in late. So would you want to take this question?
Yeah, so probably, how I understand monetary challenges, you don't have enough funds to start the business. So I have a feeling that if that is the situation, one has to be finding out for a business. I'll give you an example about a person who started a business very recently in Germany, which we got to know. In the retail stores, all the vegetables are very good looking in the Western world. So, but everything which is grown is not good looking. So it is sorted out and not so very good looking vegetables are kept away. He didn't have any funds to start the business. So what he did is he went to the Lidls and the Aldis of the world in Germany and said that whenever you sort your not so good looking vegetables, I will pick them up. And he picked them up. And believe you me, he charged the retail chain for picking up because he was solving their problem. And he said, these vegetables now, which he gets as well as gets money, he went to the restaurants. He went on the chain, he created a quick Amazon shop and said that I would like to sell this. They are not good looking, but they are available to you at 20% discount. Would you like to buy it? And he said, not a single day I had stock left. Everything went out. So, there are ways and means if you don't have funds for your business. There are different ways of generating this models. And I think having a mentor here helps a lot.
Right. How you monetize your ideas and thoughts also matters. Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you very much. And is there any question? We have come to the end of the session, and I'm sure you people have enjoyed the talk by Mahesh Kothurkar and are definitely taking back something with you. I see some of our cohorts here in the session who are actually working on their business plans. So you must have definitely got some inputs from this session today. And I'm sure it could be different segments, different areas that you're working on, but there's a lot to take back from the insights that he shared. So thank you once again, Mahesh, for sparing the time and being with us this evening.